Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to learn more about the changes that happened recently with the VAT in Portugal. Come with me. If you don't know me yet, I'm Anna Flip. I'm the Portugal tax helper. You can follow me on YouTube or Instagram to learn more about the taxes in Portugal in an easy language that you can understand. Before we move to our class, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to follow me on Instagram. Let's go. The VAT changed a lot recently. Most of the changes took effect on the 1st of July. And this class, this mini class is dedicated to freelancers and how they could be affected with these changes. I hope in the end you'll be able to understand the changes and act accordingly. Um, one of the changes is how it's about the limit, the turnover limit. So there's the Article 53 that gives you the exemption for the VAT, has a limit of 15,000. This limit is still the same, but now instead of waiting for the next year to be in the VAT regime, that can happen during the year if you reach a limit of 18,750. We are going to check this with more details and exemption. The other thing is if you have one client or several clients, but they are all outside Portugal, now you can be in the exemption regime, even if you get over the 15K, as long your sales, your invoicing to Portuguese clients don't get up to the limit of 15,000. Then non-residents cannot use this exemption regime, although there's slightly difference depending on if you are a non-EU or a EU resident. If you are a non-EU resident, you are no longer eligible for this, but if you are a EU resident, there's some way to work around and still use this exemption on this. One other thing is there's something that it's called atisolado, is one of it's one of invoice, and whilst before it was possible to issue more than one in certain cases, not common but certain cases, now it's not possible in 1 year to issue more than one. And also, if you issue one atisolado, it counts towards your turnover if you eventually decide to register your activity. Also, before also happened when you were registering your activity. If it was in the middle of the year, you had to give the expected turnover, and depending on the amount that you declared, you could be in the VAT regime because it was calculated pro rata. So if it was 6 months until the end of the year, it was calculated how much that would be for the 12 months. That no longer exists. So as long you declare is less than 15K, you don't have to you will not be in the VAT regime because it doesn't do those calculations anymore. One other thing is in the normal way for you to request to return to the exemption regime, usually it's January, but exceptionally they are allowing for people to do this during this month, July. Very important, if you want to move to the exemption regime, don't forget about any VAT adjustments. So anything that you deducted but you didn't use yet, like inventory, or um, you have assets that you deducted the VAT, but they are still in the life of the asset, you need to adjust. So if you got a deduction, you need to pay back part of total of that VAT to the tax authorities. So this is like a breakdown of the major changes for the freelancers. Now we are going to talk a bit in detail of each one. So let's start with the first one. The limit, like I mentioned, has not been there was no changes on this. But the difference is if during the year you reach 18,750, you don't need to memorize this. You just need to know that it's 25% more of the limit that is set up in the Article 53. So if you reach this limit, you are immediately in the VAT regime. So it's not only in the following year. So if in 2025 you exceed 18,750, you exit the exemption regime. But if you get over the 15,000 but less than the second limit, you only exit on January 2026. Let's see an example. Maria is a freelancer consultant. By September, she has already invoiced 16,000. So she's over the limit of 15,000, but she's still below the limit of 18,750. But in October, she closed a deal for 3,000. So we are saying that she will be with an invoicing sales amount of 19,000. 19,000 is over 8,750, and this means that for that invoice, for the invoice of the 3,000, she will have to charge VAT because she will be immediately in the VAT regime. Apart from that, apart from charging the VAT on that specific invoice, she has 15 days to submit to file a changes declaration for the activity. So she makes the authorities aware that she is in the VAT regime. And from that moment, she needs to file VAT returns, usually every quarter, unless she decides to do it monthly. But for this amount, it should be on a quarterly basis. But it's very important for you to know is that it's not after you issue that invoice, is the moment you issue that invoice, you are already in the VAT regime. So imagine that her invoice after September was for 2,749. So that invoice will not have VAT, but the following one, even if it's for €1, will have VAT. So when you reach the limit of 18,750, it's the moment that your invoices start having VAT. So this is important, especially when you agree with pricing, that you are aware that from that moment, your price will increase 23%. Just don't forget that the VAT is not yours. It's not a revenue for you. It's something that you receive and you pay back to the tax authorities. So it's important for you to be aware that you need to charge this, but it's not yours, only the net amount it is. We have another example. John, a graphic designer, he got to the end of 2025 with a turnover of 16,000. So he has not exceeded the 18,750, so there was no changes during the year. But in January 2026, he must move to the VAT regime because he exceeded the 15,000. So let's recap. 15,000 is still the limit for you to lose your exemption. The 20, the other limit, 25% more, is for you to know that if you reach that amount during the year, you will not wait until January of the following year to be in the VAT regime. It starts straight away. The other change is that service to clients outside Portugal no longer count for this limit. So if you are under the Article 53 and you only have clients outside Portugal, even if you get over the 15,000 with those clients, you can still be in the VAT regime, the exemption regime, because the invoicing, the turnover, the sales for those clients doesn't count for this limit. This is one of the changes that you didn't have before. Again, an example. Clara is a Portuguese freelancer. So in 2025, she invoiced 19,000 to clients in Portugal, Portuguese clients registered in Portugal, or just the individuals who live in Portugal, residents in Portugal. But then she also invoiced some clients in Spain and Germany for a total of 8,000. So total invoicing is 17,000, but only 9,000 counts for the VAT exemption limit. So she can stay exempt as her turnover in Portugal is below the 15,000 limit. So what counts is how much you invoice in Portugal, not abroad. So if you are in the VAT regime and you want to move to the exemption regime, you can do this in January, or you can do this until the end of July. Um, you have those two options. Um, you can do that, and there's no problem. It's the only thing that, like I mentioned, is any deductions that you did of something that you haven't used yet, you need to pay back to the tax authorities. So, non-EU residents. Non-EU residents are no longer eligible to the VAT exemption. Um, until now, it was possible to have a tax residence in another country, and for any reasons that people thought it was important to have the activity registered in Portugal to provide services part of the year in Portugal or remotely. So people were used to register in Portugal even if they were non-resident, and uh, they used this benefit of the Article 53 and they were uh, VAT exempt. From now on, non-EU residents cannot use this exemption. If they want, they need to move their residency to Portugal or any other country in EU. Another example, Sophie is a yoga instructor, from Brazil. So her residency is in Brazil. She registered the activity in Portugal to give online classes to Portuguese clients. She was under the VAT exemption. She never reached the limit of the Article 53. Everything was okay. But from now, because she lives outside the EU, she can no longer be using this exemption. She will be automatically moved to the normal regime. So, or she closes the activity and she doesn't do any of this business in Portugal, or she needs to be aware that from that moment onwards, she needs to charge VAT. So she's non-EU residents can still have the activity in Portugal. The only difference is that they cannot use the benefit of the exemption of the Article 53. So that is a big difference, and there's some people that are in this situation. So it's important that people know that from the 1st of July, they are liable for any VAT. And if they didn't charge the VAT to their clients, they will still need to pay to the tax authority. Then EU residents, they are a bit different because they are not residents, so they cannot benefit for the exemption unless they register the activity in the country where they have the residency and they notify the Portuguese tax authorities that they of the registration in the other country, so they can use the benefit in Portugal. So this is not Portuguese changes. This is EU changes. So this includes all the countries in EU. So you just need to notify. In this case, I'll give you an example more about the process, how it works, rather than a figure itself. So we have Lucas. He's a graphic designer who lives in Germany but provides service to clients in Portugal. He registered the activity in 2024 and he was under the VAT regime, normal, like I've mentioned. In 2025, to still use this exemption, he needs to, one, shut down the activity in Portugal. Second, register and or reactivate, depends on what the situation that he has in Germany. Third, send a prior notification to the Portuguese tax authorities via e-balcão. In this notification, he will attach a proof of the activity in German and he will mention about the turnover earned in Portugal so far. With this, he will ask to be to benefit of the Article 53 and to reinstate the activity. If nothing like this is done, like for the non-EU clients, he will be moved to the normal regime from the 1st of July. So this is the only one-off invoice, also known as atesolado. Like I've mentioned before, until now, it was possible to have more than one in some cases, and the amount of this type of invoice didn't affect the exemption limit. But from 2025, it's only possible to issue one, and the amount that you issue will count for the annual turnover if you register the activity. Let's see an example. Inês is a Portuguese writer. In July 2025, she gives a talk and she issues an one-off invoice, one atesolado for 5,000. But in September 2025, she knows that she will have more work to do, and so she decides to register a business, and she does under the exemption regime. Until December, she issues invoices with a total of 12,000. What happens with the VAT? So she was able to register with the exemption regime because the artisanal that she had was only for 5,000. as long as she declared the expected turnover is 10,000, she didn't reach the limit. Actually, she didn't even reach the limit of 18,700 between the two. So what happens? It looks like that for 2026, she will still be in the exemption regime. But because the VAT isolado also counts for the limit, the total turnover for 2025 is 17,000. So in January, Inês will be moved to the normal VAT regime. So again, if you issue an ato isolado, you will have to count that amount for the turnover to be or not in the exemption regime. When you register your activity, one of the questions that they used to ask, and I presume they will still be asking this, is the expected turnover. And before it was calculated pro rata, so depended on how much you said that it will be your turnover until the end of the year. The tax authorities calculated how much that will mean for the whole year. And if that calculation got something over 15,000, you will not be in the VAT regime, the exemption regime. If it was lower than 15K, then you will be in the exemption regime. From July 1st, this annualized turnover doesn't happen anymore. So basically, you just tell the expected turnover, and if it's more or less than 15,000, you will be or not in the exemption regime. Because, as you already know, if you say 1,000 just so you are in the exemption regime to make sure that you are in the exemption regime, but actually know that you are going to issue one invoice for 20,000, that first invoice will be with VAT because it's over 18,750. So until now, people were using this benefit of being in the exemption regime for 12 months, 6 months, depends on when the activity was registered, when they already knew that the invoicing would be more than 15,000. But they knew that they will be with the exemption regime until the following year. Now you can say that it's less, but as soon as you reach the limit, you will be in the VAT regime and you will not be waiting for the following year. Like I've mentioned, the full amount declared is what determines the VAT regime. It doesn't matter when during the year you start. An example of what I've just said, registration in October, you declare 5,000 expected turnover, and before tax office would analyze to 20,000. Basically, it says that October, November, December, 3 months. If 5,000 is for 3 months, how much will be for 12 months? And if you do the calculations, is 20,000. So you would be in the VAT regime. But now you declare 5,000 and you stay in the exemption regime. If you declare 15,000 or more, you go straight away to the normal regime. As mentioned, it's possible to move back to the exemption regime. You just need to file a declaration of changes in January of the future year that you are in, and you need to meet the legal requirements like the turnover. You cannot do exports. So as long you have this, and the turnover here also includes if in the previous year you had more than 15K, but your clients were outside Portugal, you can also move to the exemption regime. So it's a standard process to move to the exemption regime. But this already happened before. It was possible to move back with the exemption in January as long as you meet all the criteria. In the change is that the criteria now also changed. For example, before it was not possible if you had exports. Now, before it was not possible if you had imports, but now it's possible. Before it was not possible if your invoicing was over 15,000 for clients abroad. Now it's possible. So there are these changes with the legislation, gives you more opportunities to move back to the exemption regime or to be in the exemption regime for the first time if you were never with the regime. Only for 2025 and because the changes happened this year, you can move to the exemption regime during July, as long as you are in the normal regime. You had less than 15,000 in 2024. This is important because if you had more than 15,000, that was the reason why you moved to the VAT regime. So if you had more than 15,000, you cannot move to the exemption. Again, Portugal only. So if you had more than 15K in 2024, but your clients were all abroad, you can move to the exemption regime. And you have not exceeded this year 18,750 with your Portuguese clients. This can be done until the end of July 2025, and it means that the exemption regime would have started from the 1st of July. You can submit in paper, in person, if you go to a tax office, or via a balcão attaching a PDF declaration that includes the turnover in Portugal for 2024, and in the observation box, how much is your turnover to the date. So it's possible. There's not just a few days, but what counts is the date that you filed, that you sent this request. If you are in the VAT regime and you move to the exemption regime, you need to file the final VAT return. So if you move now to the exemption regime, it means that it was already from the 1st of July. And you need to file the monthly or quarterly, so the June return or the second quarter return, and adjust any deductible VAT on inventory if required. The adjustments, just a quick note about this. If you buy inventory, but you haven't sold everything, it means that any VAT that you deducted from that inventory when you bought inventory, you need to pay back to the tax authorities, because basically when eventually you use that inventory, you will be in the exemption regime, so you will not charge VAT, so you cannot be entitled to that deduction. And corrections with assets or service that were previously deducted and they were not used yet. Basically, anything deducted already, but you haven't used the the good or the service, you need to pay back this to the tax authority. And this is done in the VAT return, the final one. And what I was just saying, so this, because you are no longer in the VAT regime from the 1st of July, you include these adjustments in the June monthly return or in the second quarter return. The adjustment must be declared and paid by the VAT return. Really important that if you have any situation that you need to pay VAT, although you are in the exemption regime or anything, it's always through a VAT return. Never, it's possible to issue a payment note for a specific amount, but it's always using a VAT return. Okay, and this was the last one. I hope that uh, you learned a bit more about all these changes. Um, Everything was done in a rush, so it's still new to several people, even to the tax authorities, which is normal. Uh, if you don't make any change now in July, keep in mind that the changes get back to normal in between 1 year and the other, so in January. If you have any questions about taxes in Portugal, just leave a comment below or I'll answer in future videos. So any questions will help me to create new videos to clarify the questions. Or if it's related to this one, I will respond directly. Please subscribe to the channel so you know about any updates. Like this video so you can help to grow this page, and you can follow me on Instagram to know more uh, updates that can happen. And I hope I can see you in my next video.